Hi guys, Miss Malik here. Today we're going to do exercise 6A. This is a bit of an introduction to the unit circle, and some of the knowledge is assumed from year 11 and year 10. The unit circle is just a circle with a radius of 1. Being so simple, it is no wonder that many use it as a convenient way to learn and talk about lengths and angles. This is what I got from a textbook. Unfortunately, that's not true. Many people struggle with the unit circle and they don't understand the basics, which means, of course, they can't do the more complex things. Let's go right back to the beginning and talk about what the unit circle actually is. So here it is here, it's a circle on the x and y axes, and you can see ones and zeros and negative ones. What we know about this circle is that the circumference is 2 pi r. So that means from the green point at 1, 0, if we go all the way around that circle, the circumference is 2 pi r. Of course it is, because that is the circumference of every circle. Because this is a unit circle, that means that the radius is 1. So from the middle of the circle to any point at the circumference, it's 1 unit. 1 unit means it could be 1 metre, it could be 1 centimetre. We just call it 1 unit. So the circumference is 2 pi times 1, because the radius is 1. Then, so we can just say the circumference is 2 pi. So the distance from that point, 1, 0, all the way around, that's 2 pi. To here, if the whole distance is 2 pi, if we go just to the top where it's 0, 1 over here, this is pi on 2, because half the circle must be pi, because 2 pi divided by 2 is pi. Then if we head around to 3/4 of the way through the circle, we can think, well, 3/4 of 2 pi, 3 times 2 is 6. So that's 6 pi on 4, and that means, if we simplify it, means it's 3 pi on 2. So 3/4 around the circle is 3 pi on 2, taking us all the way around to 2 pi. Let's now look into degrees and radians. So when we're talking about degrees, we're talking about that there are 360 degrees in a circle. So 360 must correspond to 2 pi. So 2 pi radians, that little c there, that means radians, equals 360 degrees. So when we're talking about the unit circle in terms of pi, we're talking about radians. And when we're talking about numbers like 360, we're talking about degrees. If 2 pi radians is 360 degrees, pi radians, or 1 pi radian, must be 180 degrees. So 1 radian is equal to 180 degrees divided by pi. See how that works? I've just divided both sides by pi to get 1 radian on its own. Remember that this is 1 pi radian, not just pi radian. There's a 1 in front of it. So that's how we get that. 1 degree is therefore going to be pi radians on 180. Look up over here where we have 180 degrees and pi radians. We can say if we want to get just 1 degree, we would divide that by 180. So we divide 180 on both sides, meaning that 1 degree is pi over 180. That's handy to remember and something you definitely should put on your cheat sheet. 1 radian, the definition is that it's an angle subtended at the centre of the unit circle by an arc of length 1 unit. So if we think of 1 unit, usually we're thinking of the radius being 1 unit, this here. Now let's think of the part of the circumference being that distance also, so being 1 radian. If we got a piece of string and put it from here to here, that would be the same distance as if we put the string from the centre of the circle to the circumference, 1 unit. So when we have that, the angle in the middle is 1 radian. Let's keep going. So an example would be to convert 30 degrees to radians. We just have to remember that 1 degree is pi radians on 180. So therefore, if we times 1 by 30, we also times the right-hand side by 30. So we get 30 times pi radian over 180, which equals pi radians on 6. That's what 30 degrees equals. Let's now go the opposite way and convert pi radian on 4 into degrees. So if 1 radian equals 180 over pi, it means that pi radian on 4 is going to equal pi on 4 times 180 over pi. So we do that and we get 45 degrees. Notice how it cancels out the pi. Of course it does, because when we're talking about degrees, that's what we do. Also to remember that often the symbol for radian is omitted. So if you see it just pi on 6, that they're talking about radians, whereas for degrees, they'll always put the little degree sign there. And that's the first part, that's 6a.